a little book haul for you, although it's primarily nonfiction. So if nonfiction's not your jam, then you probably want to skip this one. And you can check out the review that I'll be posting for Shadow of Night, which is the second book in the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. I do have one fiction book, but I really don't think it counts. This is the 20th anniversary edition of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by Bloomsbury. When these first came out, I thought they were going to just do the first book. I don't know why I thought that. So I had ordered all the hardback and all the paperback in all the houses. So that's 8 books total. It was kind of expensive. Then I realized later that they were doing all of the Harry Potter books in the series. So then I decided to just stick with, I had to make a decision for my budget to either stick with the paperback or the hardback, and I decided to go with the hardback version. So this one is black. I think they're alternating between black and red. It has the red sprayed pages, and if you look here, I really like this. You have Severus, and I just think that's really cool. I actually plan on, after I read the All Souls trilogy, I'm thinking of rereading Harry Potter and then maybe trying to see, read the first book in Outlander to see if it would be like my jam or not. So I think when I reread these, I'll start with rereading these versions, you know, at least through the 6th book, and then I'll just read my regular hardback edition of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So this is the only fiction book that I have recently hauled. But let's jump into these non-fiction books. So Thrift Books, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they have a website, but they also have an eBay shop. And they had a deal that I think was like buy 3 books, get the 4th free. So I've been gluten-free for several years now. Actually, I think it's more than several years. I think I've been gluten-free, I was at my other job 3 years, I've been at this job 3 years. So it's been like 7 or 8 years, I think, since I've been gluten-free. I have been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, which is actually a symptom and not a diagnosis, at least in my opinion. And I had a lot of acid reflux and had an inflamed stomach lining because I had an endoscopy done, and I was just having all sorts of issues. And so I had done a lot of research at that time to avoid gluten and wheat. I don't really, since I'm not a celiac, my test came back negative, but I was already avoiding gluten and wheat by the time, like for at least a month, or I think even longer, before I actually took those tests. But and I do have, there's issues that run in my family, autoimmune disease, ulcerative colitis runs on my mother's side. But I decided to avoid wheat and gluten, but I don't really worry about cross-contamination that much, so it doesn't really affect me too much when I'm dining out. And if you don't know what that means, it's essentially avoiding, gluten is a binding protein, so I'm essentially avoiding, you know, like I can eat potatoes, I can eat starchy vegetables like corn, I can eat rice, I avoid regular pasta, I avoid like wheat pasta, I avoid bread. Sourdough I haven't tried, but I have heard that some people who don't have celiac aren't bothered by sourdough because it has to do with the fermentation process. I don't drink beer anymore, which I actually really miss because I was more of a beer girl than, you know, wine or mixed drinks or anything like that. I have come across a couple gluten-free beers. There's a wine, or not a winery, a brewery out here in Cleveland that does a gluten-free beer, but I can't like find it in stores. I've seen it in restaurants here and there, and I've tried that, and that was good. But for the most part, because of being gluten-free, I've just slowly stopped really, you know, consuming alcohol like over the years anyway. But that leads me to this book, which I actually don't think is one of the ones I read when I initially did my research. So this is Grain Brain, and it's the surprising truth about wheat, carbs, and sugar, your brain's silent killers. I actually got this more for the sugar because I am very addicted to sugar, and I think that if I wasn't, or if I could at least reduce my intake, that I'd probably be better off. But I've always had a huge sweet tooth like my entire life. And like I'm always sugary over, you know, salty or savory like any day. So I don't know if I could, and I know sugar's hard. I've read some sugar books by J.J. Virgin in the past, and I just know it's really, there's a lot of added sugar in things, but I also don't think that natural sugars, like in fruits and honey and things like that, are necessarily part of the problem, because I just think it's like, the chemically altered sugars that end up being like thousands of times sweeter than regular sugar. So I often try to look for cane sugar and things. But anyway, I can go on and on about that kind of stuff. But I got this book primarily for the sugar part. I also do I'm not paleo or anything like that, but I do find that I feel better and look better when I keep my carbs limited. So the FDA recommended value for carbohydrates is like, it's really weird because I think their carbohydrate recommendation is astronomical and their protein recommendation, in my opinion, is like super low. But the FDA recommendation for carbohydrates is supposed to be like 300 grams of carbs a day. And if you know anything about that food pyramid, that's supposed to be the foundation, which makes no sense to me, like as I'm older and wiser and not a middle schooler studying in a health class. But I try to stay between 150 and 200. There's no science behind that. It's more or less just a number that I chose because I knew after researching and listening to some podcasts and reading some books about like keto and stuff or paleo that like 50 grams or less of carbs, and I'm not looking to get into a ketogenic state or anything like that. That was too strict for me. I did loosen up on this figure at various times in my life, like around Christmas this past year. I have been sick with COVID at the beginning of November. So I just ate whatever I could, and that actually was carbs because anything I could make myself from the grocery delivery that was gluten-free tended to be more carb-based because I didn't have the strength or the energy to make something, whip out the Instant Pot and make something more wholesome. So I was eating, around 200 maybe carbohydrates or so, like for a couple months there. But I recently went back to my 150 to 175 range, and I've been hovering more at the 175, but I just find that for me, I actually start to feel better. So I was really interested less in about the wheat in this Grain Brain book and more about the carbs and sugar, which I know are all correlated anyway. Carbs, if you don't use them, they're essentially sugar. And they turn to fat, but I just thought this was interesting. So this book is used, and it only cost me, I think, like $3 or $4. So another book that I got is apparently this woman just had an essay book come out, Joan Didion, The Year of Magical Thinking. And I do like spiritual books, and I kind of lumped this into the spirituality category because it talks about how her daughter, I forget what the issue was. I read the synopsis before I bought it. It looks like there's some coloring in this book too. Or maybe it's some kind of mathematical figures and I don't even know. Kind of don't like when they put like new when it's clearly not like new, and maybe I should have looked closer to this. And actually I probably will be emailing thrift books because I do not consider crayon and stick figures in my book to be like new, even if the condition of, it looks like it's just those first pages. Maybe the parent came and was like, "What are you doing?" and snatched the book out of the kid's hand, even though the rest of the book looks good. But that's still, that doesn't get listed as like new when there's crayon drawings by like a 4-year-old in here. But anyway, supposedly Joan Didion's daughter had a medical condition that almost caused her to die. Then just as she was recovering, her husband, I think, unexpectedly passed away, and then right after that, her daughter relapsed or had another condition. I just looked up the summary when I was trying to narrow down what 4 books I wanted to get, and I just thought that maybe this book could have some inspirational things in it for when you're going through a hard time. So that's why I picked this one up. But thrift books, I'm going to be contacting you because this is not like new. The next book I got is The Case for Christ. I do believe in Jesus, and I believe in God universe. I call it God because I started out as a child. I was raised Roman Catholic until I was about 13. So for me, that's what I like to call the universal energies at play. But I also believe in the goddess and Mother Nature. But anyway, I got this one because I find anything about Jesus super interesting, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. I love when there's, you know, specials on like Expedition Unknown or about Jesus Christ relics and things like that. And I just find it incredibly fascinating, and I want as much historical evidence as possible. So this book was written by an investigative journalist, and I think I had just watched something on like Forbidden History. I was rewatching an older show about that, and so I thought it was interesting. So I picked this up because it's just a personal fascination of mine. Then I picked up this because I saw it recommended by, I don't remember if it was Colette Baron Reid or who I was following, but it's called The Seat of the Soul, and it's a self-help kind of book. So it says it's about the birth of a new species and the explosion of human perception past the five senses. It's about the values of the soul, harmony, cooperation, sharing, and reverence for life. It's about authentic power, the alignment of the personality with the soul, and it's about non-physical guides and teachers. I actually see a quote on here by Brian Weiss, who is a past life regressionist, who I've read some of his books. I actually wrote a fiction book that has past life regression in it called The Fractured Life of Jenny McLean, so you can check that out on my website, or you can even find it on, you know, Amazon or you know, an indie bookstore of your choice. You can also find it on barnesandnoble.com. But I just find things like this incredibly fascinating as well. So I'm looking forward to, you know, reading this. I guess recently a new edition came out, and I think it has like a foreword by maybe Oprah or somebody, but I'm not really riding the Oprah train, so I actually sought out the older edition on purpose. And again, from Thrift Books, it was like $3 or $4. Last but not least, I have a book and a companion workbook that were a gift for Christmas from one of my best friends that we've been friends for nearly 20 years now. And I just thought it was interesting. I don't know too much about it based on what I looked up, but I plan on doing it in March. So she got me The Artist's Way, which is a morning pages stream of writing consciousness program for writers. And I guess Elizabeth Gilbert of Eat, Pray, Love fame followed this. This is by Julia Cameron. This is the 25th anniversary edition. I think it's a 2-week program. Martin Scorsese apparently also used The Artist's Way, but it's a way to unlock your creativity, but also in alignment with like your soul. So my friend and I are both very spiritual people, so I thought this was super interesting. And then she also got me the Morning Pages journal that's the companion for this. Like I said, I think it's 2 weeks long. I'd have to relook it up, but yeah, well, it's 12-week long. I don't know where I got 2 week. I guess they both have 2s in them. But so it's cultivating creativity, personal growth, and change using stream of consciousness writing. The workbook, for example, this page says, in order to have self-expression, we must first have a self to express. And that correlates to like page 80 in the book. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. I'm not really a morning person, so they might become like evening pages for me unless the program insists that you do it in the morning. I'm still in a work from home situation, and I kind of just like roll out of bed and start working so that I can be done earlier in the day. But I'm really looking forward to doing this program. I experienced a little bit of block in NaNoWriMo this year. You can see my experience. I did 3 videos, one at the beginning, one at the middle, and one at the end of November for NaNoWriMo. And I finished and hit NaNoWriMo, but then I stopped writing the book because I kind of was like struggling to come up with what direction I wanted. It's supposed to be the conclusion to a trilogy. I do plan to rewrite it, or not rewrite it, well, I might rewrite it, depends on what I find when I go back. But I plan to finish it, and I think I might do this program first before I finish it to help myself unblock. So we'll see, but I'm looking forward to doing this. I hadn't heard of this, I don't think. I think like maybe I had heard it mentioned in passing, but I hadn't actually heard of this program. So I'm very interested in learning more about it and completing it. And perhaps after I do, and to hold myself accountable, I'll do a review of the program on this channel. So if that's something you would like, give me the thumbs up and I will make that happen. I'm all for accountability. So that is all I have for you. Those were the books that I've recently hauled. Like I said, pretty heavy on the nonfiction. You can check out the review of Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness on this channel. I'm currently reading Book of Life, which is the third book in the All Souls trilogy, so you can expect a review on that probably in about a month or so. And if I get any other cool books or any other hauls, I'll be sure to post them. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you'd like to be notified when I upload videos. And in the meanwhile, happy reading and happy writing. Bye!